Welcome, friends. Have you ever wondered why people behave the way they do? Why someone close to you suddenly changes, or why people sometimes hurt each other for no clear reason? Beneath all the roles we play, friend, parent, boss, stranger, there's something deeper going on. Something ancient, emotional, powerful. This is what the laws of human nature dives into. Robert Greene doesn't just talk about psychology or offer tips. He takes you on a journey into the human heart and mind. A place where fears, desires, insecurities, and hidden ambitions quietly shape every word we speak and every choice we make. Sometimes we are aware of it, often we are not. And that's what makes human nature so mysterious and so dangerous. But imagine what would happen if you could begin to see clearly. If you could understand not just what people do, but why they do it. If you could recognize the emotions behind their smile, the insecurities behind their pride, the wounds behind their anger. This book is like holding a mirror, not only to others, but to yourself. Because to master human nature, you must first face your own. It's not always comfortable. But it's real. And once you see the truth, you can never unsee it. Chapter 1. Understanding Human Irrationality. A human story of emotion over logic. Have you ever made a decision that felt so right in the moment, only to look back and wonder, what was I thinking? Maybe it was falling for someone who clearly wasn't good for you, quitting a job in anger, or sending that one message you instantly regretted. We've all been there. And in those moments, we tell ourselves, I wasn't being myself, or I just wasn't thinking clearly. But Robert Greene leans in close and gently whispers, that was you. That is you. That's human nature. This chapter doesn't hand you facts and figures. It pulls you into a deeper truth. That most of the time, we aren't guided by logic. We are driven by emotions we don't fully understand. We might think we are in control, that we are reasonable, balanced, rational. But under the surface, emotions like fear, envy, insecurity, pride, and anger are steering the wheel while we sit in the passenger seat, unaware. Greene tells us, don't be ashamed of this. You are not broken. You are human. And being human means carrying emotional baggage that quietly shapes how we see the world and how we act in it. The way we trust too fast, or hold grudges. The way we get jealous, even of those we love. The way a simple comment can ruin our day, not because of what was said, but because of what it touched deep inside us. The problem isn't that we feel these things. The danger is pretending we don't. When we act like we are always logical, we become blind to the truth. And this blindness makes us easy to manipulate, by others, by our own moods, even by society. It makes us repeat the same mistakes. It makes us hurt people we care about, and sabotage the very things we want most. In one unforgettable story from the book, Greene shows us how an intelligent, admired political figure lost everything, not because of lack of skill, but because he couldn't see how his pride and emotion clouded his judgment. He didn't understand the emotional game being played around him, until it was too late. That story hits home because we've all played our own version of it. Maybe not on a national stage, but in our relationships, careers, friendships. And the truth stings. We think we are being rational, but most of the time, we are not. And here's the twist, Greene isn't telling us to be cold, emotionless machines. He's showing us how to become emotionally aware. To spot when jealousy is whispering in our ear, when fear is tightening its grip, when anger is dressing up as confidence. Once we see it, we can begin to own it. And once we own it, it no longer owns us. This chapter isn't just the beginning of the book, it's the beginning of a kind of awakening. A moment where you start to recognize the invisible forces shaping your life. You'll never look at yourself or others the same way again. Because once you know how irrational we all are, you can finally begin to become truly wise. Chapter 2: The Hidden Forces That Drive People. What if people don't even know why they do what they do? Picture this. You are having a conversation with someone, maybe a friend, a colleague, a partner. On the surface, it's all normal. Smiles, nods, maybe even a compliment. But then, out of nowhere, they change. Their tone gets colder. Their body stiffens. And you are left standing there wondering, what just happened? Did I say something wrong? But they won't admit it. They don't even seem aware of it themselves. That's what this chapter dives into. The strange, invisible forces that shape people's actions, forces even they aren't fully aware of. Robert Greene takes us behind the curtain, where emotions like envy, insecurity, past trauma, and unmet desires quietly live and breathe inside all of us. These hidden drivers are powerful and often ancient. Sometimes they're born in childhood, an absent parent, a moment of rejection, a deep sense of being overlooked. Other times, they come from the culture around us, whispering in our ears about what success looks like or what we should want to be happy. And here's where it gets scary. People will swear up and down that they're acting out of reason, that they're being logical. But the truth? Logic is usually just a costume. Underneath it is a child still trying to prove they're good enough. Or a teenager still chasing attention they never got. Or someone simply trying to feel in control of a world that constantly reminds them they're not. Greene tells a chilling story of a powerful man who seemed calm, generous, and wise, but slowly, almost imperceptibly, began to destroy the very people closest to him. Not out of malice. Not even consciously. But because deep down, he couldn't stand to see others succeed where he had failed. His need for control was rooted in wounds he had never faced. And honestly, don't we all do this in small ways? We see someone succeed, and instead of feeling inspired, we feel a sting. We tell ourselves we are happy for them, but something inside us twists just a little. Or maybe we push someone away, not because we don't love them, but because deep down, we don't feel worthy of being loved. These are the hidden forces Greene is talking about. The ones that operate in the background of our lives, shaping our relationships, our careers, our self-worth, while we go on pretending we are in charge. But here's the beautiful and painful part. Once we become aware of these hidden forces, we can begin to work with them instead of being controlled by them. It's not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming honest. First with ourselves, then with others. This chapter isn't just a mirror, it's an X-ray. It shows you what's beneath the surface, not just in other people, but in yourself. It forces you to ask, what am I really chasing? What old wound am I still trying to heal with every choice I make? And that's a hard question. But it's the beginning of freedom. Because the moment you stop pretending you are always in control, is the moment you actually start to take control. And suddenly, people make more sense. You no longer take things so personally. You stop being shocked when someone turns on you, or when they sabotage their own success. You see it for what it is, not weakness, not evil, just deeply human. And you begin to walk through the world a little wiser, a little calmer, and a whole lot more awake. Chapter 3: Mastering the Social Game. Everyone's playing it, whether they admit it or not. There's a moment in life, usually in your late teens or early 20s, when you look around and suddenly realize, this world isn't as straightforward as it seems. People don't always say what they mean. They smile when they're angry. They compliment you when they're jealous. They nod in agreement while plotting something entirely different. It hits you like a wave. Everyone's playing a game. And whether you like it or not, you are in it too. This chapter is about waking up to that uncomfortable truth. Robert Greene doesn't hand you a manual on how to manipulate. That's too shallow. What he does is deeper. He holds up a mirror and says, "Look again. You've been part of a giant, unspoken performance your entire life. From school to the workplace, from dating to friendships, every arena is a social game with rules no one talks about, but everyone follows. Think about it. Ever watched someone get praised for doing far less than you did? Or been ignored in a room where someone else seemed to soak up all the attention, even if they said nothing of real value? You may have told yourself, it's not fair. Life doesn't reward honesty or talent. It rewards something else. And you'd be right. The people who thrive socially aren't always the smartest or kindest. They're the ones who have learned how to read the room. How to say just enough. How to dress their ambition in humility. How to appear harmless, even when they're moving with precision. Greene tells stories of people who failed, not because they lacked skill or intelligence, but because they were blind to the social web around them. They walked through life thinking merit alone would protect them, until they were outmaneuvered by someone who understood the unspoken rules. But this isn't just about strategy. It's about survival. In the workplace, the game is everywhere. Some people play it aggressively, forming alliances, planting rumors, wearing fake smiles. Others play it passively, avoiding conflict, quietly pleasing everyone, afraid to make waves. But both are trapped if they don't see the game for what it is. Greene pushes you to stop wishing people were more honest and start seeing them more clearly. Because once you see it, you stop reacting. You stop being surprised when someone turns their back on you, or when loyalty is just a word people use until it's no longer convenient. You stop giving away your trust so easily. And slowly, you start to play, not ruthlessly, but consciously. You begin to move with intention. You protect your name. You listen more than you speak. You sense when someone's true agenda doesn't match their words. You learn when to step forward, and when to disappear for a while. And here's the twist that makes this chapter so powerful. Greene doesn't ask you to become fake. He doesn't want you to lose your authenticity. He wants you to sharpen it. To become someone who understands the performance, but doesn't become a prisoner of it. Someone who can navigate the spotlight when needed, and vanish into the shadows when it's wise. Because once you master the social game, you are no longer a piece on someone else's board. You become the player. Chapter 4: The Dark Side of Human Nature. The shadows we pretend don't exist. Let's be honest, no one wants to believe they have a dark side. We like to think we are kind, rational, fair. We post nice things. We say the right words. We tell ourselves we've grown past the ugly parts. But then something happens. Someone gets the promotion we wanted, someone we love betrays us, someone gets more attention than we feel they deserve, and suddenly, something sharp rises inside us. It's not pretty. It's not noble. It's not what we want others to see. But it's there. This chapter takes you to the place most people avoid, the hidden, messy, emotional basement of the human soul. And Greene doesn't knock politely, he kicks the door open and flips the lights on. What we find there is raw envy, rage, jealousy, repressed desires, unspoken fears, fantasies of revenge. And most dangerously, the denial that any of it exists. Think about it. How often have you seen someone sabotage a good thing in their life and blame everyone else for it? How often have you felt a certain discomfort seeing someone else shine a little too brightly? You may have smiled. You may have even congratulated them. But inside, a part of you whispered, "Why not me?" And that whisper, that's the shadow. We push these feelings down because we think they make us bad. But what Greene makes painfully clear is this: denying your shadow doesn't erase it, it gives it more power. Because when you don't own your dark side, it owns you. It leaks out in sarcasm, in passive-aggressive behavior, in sudden bursts of anger or self-destruction that seem to come from nowhere. It shows up when you lash out at someone who doesn't deserve it, or when you secretly root for someone to fail. We all carry old wounds, times we were humiliated, ignored, hurt, or made to feel small. And these wounds don't just disappear. They bury themselves deep, waiting for the right moment to be triggered. The shadow collects these moments like scars, building a version of ourselves that we are too afraid to face. A version that watches, that waits. One story Greene shares is chilling: a powerful leader who seemed charming, composed, and generous. But beneath the surface was a storm of insecurity and rage. Over time, he began to punish people who had once helped him, undermine friends who outshone him, and destroy opportunities just to prove he could. He wasn't evil. He was wounded, and unaware of just how deeply those wounds were running the show. And here's the truth: we all have the potential for this. That's what makes this chapter so honest and so terrifying. It shows you not only the darkness in others, but the quiet, lurking pieces of it in yourself. But there's hope. Greene doesn't leave you drowning in guilt or fear. Instead, he says, look. See it. Name it. Because the moment you stop running from your shadow is the moment you gain real power. Not the power to dominate others, but the power to control yourself. When you can say, yes, I feel envy. Yes, I want to lash out. Yes, I'm carrying anger, you take away its grip. You turn the storm into something you can navigate. Something you can learn from. This chapter isn't about becoming perfect, it's about becoming whole. It's about facing the parts of yourself you've tried to hide and realizing that everyone else is hiding them too. And once you understand this, you begin to see people differently. With more compassion. With more clarity. You stop expecting perfection from others, and you stop pretending to be perfect yourself. Because we are not just light. We are shadows too. And only those brave enough to walk into their own darkness ever find the freedom waiting on the other side. Final chapter: the path to personal power and transformation. Rebuilding yourself from the inside out. At some point in life, we all feel it, that ache. That quiet, restless pull from inside that says, you were meant for more than this. Maybe it comes after another failed relationship, or after watching someone else live the life you always imagined. Or maybe it just sneaks in during those quiet nights, when everything is silent but your mind. You feel stuck. You feel small. And worst of all, you start to wonder if you'll always be this way. That's where this chapter begins. Not with glory, but with frustration. Not with strength, but with weakness. Robert Greene doesn't offer a shortcut or a magical fix. Instead, he pulls us deep into the heart of what it really means to change. And here's the truth: real transformation isn't loud. It's not glamorous. It doesn't look good on Instagram. It's slow, uncomfortable, sometimes even brutal. Because to become something new, you have to break pieces of your old self. And that hurts. But it's in this discomfort that the magic begins. Greene introduces us to people who weren't born powerful. They weren't born confident, wise, or special. They were broken, flawed, just like the rest of us. But somewhere along the line, they made a decision, not to escape their pain, but to use it. To face their weaknesses like a mirror and say, "Okay, I see you. Now let's do something about it." One man was humiliated so deeply in his youth, most would have hidden for life. But he didn't. He let that humiliation fuel him. Day by day, he reshaped himself. Not by pretending to be someone else, but by learning to master who he already was. He turned his scars into strength, his silence into wisdom, his shame into quiet power. And when the world saw him again, they couldn't recognize the boy he used to be. That's the path Greene lays before us, not a clean, perfect journey, but a real one. A path where you learn to stop blaming the world, where you stop waiting to be rescued, where you realize that the only real transformation comes when you stop pretending you are powerless. Because the truth? You are not. You may have been hurt, lied to, overlooked. Maybe you were born into chaos or raised in shadows. But none of that defines you, unless you let it. Greene wants you to understand, personal power doesn't come from dominating others. It comes from mastering yourself, your impulses, your fears, your inner storms. That moment when you resist the urge to lash out, that's power. When you walk away instead of begging to be loved, that's transformation. When you stand up and say, "No more hiding, no more playing small," that's when the journey truly begins. It's not easy. You'll have to confront your patterns, your need for approval, your addiction to distraction. You'll have to sit in silence and hear the things you've been avoiding. But as painful as that may sound, there's something even more painful, staying the same. This chapter isn't just a guide, it's a challenge. A quiet day whispered into your soul. What if you stopped waiting to become who you were meant to be? What if you started now? And suddenly, the idea of transformation doesn't feel so far away. It feels like something you can touch, something you can become. Not because someone gives you permission, but because you finally gave it to yourself. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, please like, share with your family and friends who need this, and subscribe to stay connected and get more amazing content. Your support means the world.